Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a review of a movie that I've watched pretty recently, that being Venom 3. Now I personally have always been kinda mixed on the Venom movies, my favorite being the first one, mainly because I like how it kinda took itself a bit more seriously compared to the second one, but I still like the fun nature of the second one at times. Back to the point though, I was kinda hyped leading up to the movie's release, with the second trailer showing Null, which had me kinda curious with how it'd be written into the movie. By the way, there are going to be segments in the video where I talk about spoilers, so I'll probably put a timestamp where you can skip them. But back to the point, I ended up watching it with my friends a day after the movie came out at the time of recording this, and here's what my thoughts are. So to start this all off, if you're a fan of the action in the Venom movies, you are gonna love this one. To be honest, this movie easily had some of the best action scenes out of the three, especially with the third act. That easily beats the fight Venom had with Riot in the first movie. I'd also say that there's a little bit more gore in this movie compared to the last two, in the sense that it isn't just people's heads being bitten off. There are other ways that people are killed off in this movie, but come on, what do you expect? It's a Venom movie. I also like the bond between Eddie Brock and Venom. You really feel like they've grown close enough to the point that the stuff they do is normal to them at this point, and you get to see how they see each other as best friends, which is not how it was in the last couple of movies. Besides that, there are some genuinely funny scenes in this movie that you can't help but laugh with some of the jokes made. With the Venom movie, the jokes have always kind of been hit or miss, but in this one it's definitely more hits than misses. I'm going to talk about spoilers in this section here, so if you want to skip this part, you can. But I personally really liked everything with Martin and his family. Yes, the same man who plays Dr. Connors, aka the Lizard, is not reprising his role here. He's just a hippie with a family of his own. But I personally really liked the interactions that they had with Eddie and Venom, and I felt kinda heartfelt at times, especially with that scene where they're driving at nighttime to Vegas. Now with the pros of this movie out of the way, let's get on to the cons. And trust me, there are a lot of them. I think it's been a tradition with these movies that the plot itself doesn't really make sense half the time, but this movie just cranks it up to 11. For starters, there are a lot of new characters introduced that really don't have any proper character arcs implemented at all, and on top of that, they really weren't interesting from what I saw. I think the movie was trying to juggle too many plot elements at once, which cuts down the screen time we get to see with Eddie and Venom, not to their benefit at all. Speaking of which, let me talk about the more here. Spoiler warning, but who in the writers team thought it was a good idea to have it so that Venom couldn't fully transform for like the majority of the movie? Seriously? Venom for the most part in this movie is just a voice in Eddie's head here. It's not like the first movie where he showed up in scenes that weren't just about action. In general, I thought this was a stupid decision. On top of that, characters like Toxin were so underutilized in this movie. Like, why wasn't he a bigger part of the plot? I personally liked when he was on screen, but I felt like he should have had more screen time, with way more to do. One part I really didn't like was how they supposedly retconned the post-credit scene from Spider-Man No Way Home. Instead of having the MCU have their own version of Venom being set up, the little piece of Venom from the post-credit scene got contained, but it really doesn't make sense. Didn't it stay in the MCU and not the Sonyverse? Why is it there? On top of that, there are certain characters from past movies that don't get talked about in this movie. For example, how come there's no mention of Anne? You know, the woman who has a link with both Eddie and Venom narratively in both movies from the past. Like, it's clear she was important in them, so why isn't she in this one at all? I'm genuinely just confused with how they wanted to shift the plot away from these characters, especially for the ending of a trilogy. And finally, that ending. I'll be honest, that was the most anticlimactic ending I think I've ever seen. Venom literally just sacrificed himself. Maroon 5 plays in the next scene, with Eddie remembering the memories he had with Venom across all three movies, and then the movie ends. There's no extra scenes to flesh out each of the side characters' arcs, or to show what happened in Eddie's life since, just an abrupt ending. It sucks. On top of that, the post-credit scenes were even worse. Like, what were they even setting up Null for? And why were they trying to set up Venom returning? How does that make sense? I guess if I had to end this movie off with a final statement, I'd say this is the type of movie where you're meant to turn off your brain and just enjoy the ride. Because if you don't, you'll just keep having questions in your head about the plot, and they won't stop. Though I guess that's the case with this franchise. These movies are meant to be silly, but they're like that on purpose, and I did enjoy that for what it's worth. Thank you all for listening to my review of this movie. I hope you guys agree with my thoughts on this, and if not, that's fine, to each their own. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you're interested for more, and I'll see you later. Peace.